Hello, and thank you for joining this installment of Workday Now focused on workforce planning. This video is one in a series of on-demand 30-minute overview demonstrations that showcase how Workday is different by design and how Workday is truly built for the future. My name is Mike Dunn, and I'll be your host for today. I'm on the pre-sales team at Workday, and I focus on our planning and analytics products. To get started in thinking about workforce planning, it's important to look at it through the lens of our world today. And the reality is that things are changing quickly. I'll let you read through these statistics here from a Deloitte study on human capital trends. And really the point is that companies must evolve, and as they evolve, they must think about and plan for the future of work and what their workforce should look like. The trends we see here aren't going away, and they're putting pressure on organizations to improve their workforce planning processes. Unfortunately, the same study tells us that 52% of businesses report being weak at workforce planning. Having been in the field for some time and talking to customers and prospects, I can confirm that this is mostly true. A lot of companies don't have established workforce planning processes, and their tool of choice remains Excel. So why have companies not succeeded with workforce planning? Mainly because it's historically been very hard. Here we see why it's hard. Number one, contribution is too limited. When you're planning in Excel, it's not easy to get a lot of people involved in the process. And if they're not involved in the process, they don't feel ownership of the plan, and the process loses steam. Next is difficulty with data and analysis. This stems from having your core HR records in one system and planning in another. It's hard to do up-to-date reporting and keep those two systems in sync, and again, the projects fail to get off the ground. Lastly, Excel and legacy applications are inflexible and are complex to the point where only a few people use or even log into them. This causes the proliferation of spreadsheets, a lot of pain, and in the end, poor workforce planning. So this is why historically it's been hard. With Workday Planning, we make it easy, and we can do this because we are the only cloud planning solution with planning, transactions, and analytics all in the same system. To better understand how we solve the complexity of workforce planning, it helps to understand the components of Workday Planning. First is the plan structure. This is really the underpinning of the planning application. In it, we determine what time we want to plan for, month, quarter, or year, as well as the dimensions we want to use to store our plan. For workforce plan, it could be by job profile, supervisory org, location, and potentially all the way down to the position level. Next, we have the plan generator. Most companies do not start their plans from scratch. They start with a baseline plan. The plan generator allows us to seed these plans with data from a snapshot of your workforce as of a point in time. These first two components aren't the most visually appealing thing you'll see in the demo today, but they are two of our biggest differentiators because we already have the data we need to start the planning process. There's no need for ETL, extract, transform, load. We're just going to reuse the dimensions, hierarchies, and worker data that already exists in Workday, and we're going to use it now for planning. The next component of Workday Planning is the Plan Workbook. This is the front end to Workday Planning, and it's where we build our collaborative driver-based models, and it's where the end users will interact with their planning data. As we'll see in the demo, it has a familiar spreadsheet look and feel, something business users are already comfortable with, which drives engagement as well as adoption. Next is business process. This is where we orchestrate the planning process, which includes the distribution, collection, and aggregation of a planning process, as well as workflow and approvals. At Workday, business process is at the core of everything we do, so we have the luxury of using that business process now in the context of planning. Finally, we have reporting. This component is nothing new to Workday with planning, but what we can do is once the planning process is complete, is utilize the existing reporting framework that Workday has to track and monitor our performance versus plan, with the drill down to detailed transactions for actuals. We don't have to feed the plan data out to a BI system or back into an ERP system. We can do all of our analysis in the same place where we're planning. So let's dig into the product to show you how we can address these problems that a lot of our customers are facing. The first problem here is inflexibility. This is mainly caused by the need to move data back and forth between a transaction system and a planning one. With Workday, we are both the transaction and planning system, so we take away this pain and the problems that come with disparate systems. To show this, I'm going to log on to Workday as our plan administrator, Logan McNeil. Typically, only 1 or 2 people at an organization will be the plan administrator, and these folks are the ones that determine what dimensions to use for planning, what data we want to seed into the plan, and how to orchestrate the planning process. If you are not the plan administrator, don't fear. What you're about to see isn't super complex, but just know that this won't be a part of your everyday life in Workday Planning. That will come a little bit later. So to show how Workday has solved this flexibility issue, let's start by looking at the plan structure. Here we see a list of plan structures for our various plans, and I'm going to select this one right here. When I click OK, I see the information related to this plan structure. This particular plan structure is by month, but if you'd like to plan by quarter or year, you can certainly do that. We're also reusing the fiscal calendar used by the rest of Workday, so no need to worry if you're using some sort of non-standard schedule. We can use that also now here for planning. On the second tab is where the plan structure gets more interesting. This is where we see a list of the dimensions that we're using to define our plan. This particular one is relatively detailed by position, supervisory org, company, etc. But it's really up to you to choose the level of detail at which you'd like to plan. The beauty of this is that we're reusing dimensions and structures that already exist in Workday. There's no need for the movement of data, just point and click, and you have the structures you need for planning. So now we have a structure for the plan, but there's no data in it. How do we seed it with baseline data? We're in luck because the same way that we already have the dimension data in Workday, we also have the worker data. To seed our plan with a snapshot of our workforce, we're going to use what's called the plan generator. I'm going to open one up, and what we see is a point and click interface to determine things like the as of date for the supervisory org. This can come in handy if there are some future dated reorgs coming up and if you want those reflected in the plan. Here we have the statistic type. Do we want to plan for headcount, FTE, and or cost of workforce? Not only can we plan for the people, we can also plan for the cost. Finally, we come to the source and the target. For the source, we can select what we want to seed the plan with. We have actuals or prior plan, and an as of date for the workforce snapshot. On the target side, we can determine which plan we want to put the data into. In this case, it's a 2-year plan, and we can either overwrite an existing plan or we can create a brand new one. With these two screens, we see with how with just a few clicks, we can be up and running with Workday Planning without any need for ETL or complex setup and syncing of both dimension and transaction data from a transaction system into a planning system. Workday already has all of this data, and we're going to use it for planning to enable flexibility and efficiency in the planning process. So let's talk about another problem facing our customers, and that is the lack of participation. The purpose of a workforce plan is to understand what's going on with the business and what people resources are needed to achieve the objectives of the organization. This is very difficult to do when the input of the folks in the business are not considered. We're seeing a lot of folks still planning in Excel, which makes the planning process very painful with lots of data and version control issues. Workday Planning takes the friction out of this process by utilizing the same business process framework used throughout Workday for planning, as well as worksheets, a familiar UI that business users already understand. So let's see what a day in the life of a business planner within Workday looks like. To do that, we're going to log in as Angela Bianchi. Angela is responsible for North America sales, and workforce planning is just another one of her tasks in Workday. As an end user, she logs in, provides her input, and then submits it through the business process, and she's done. So at this point, the plan administrator has kicked off the planning process, and a personalized plan workbook has been generated and distributed to every person responsible for a plan with only the data that matters to them. So those workbooks show up in the planner's inbox right alongside other tasks in Workday, like approving job recs, time off requests, and approvals of expense reports, etc. For Angela, here we see the planning inbox item. In it, she can open up her plan workbook, update the plan, or submit it. Updating the plan will publish her plan numbers for reporting and aggregation, but it will not update the business process. Submit will update the business process. It will lock her out of her plan from further updates, and it will update her plan. So let's take a look at the plan workbook. First thing you'll notice is that it looks and feels a lot like a spreadsheet. That's by design because it's familiar to business users. We have rows, we have columns. If we look up at the top of the screen here in the toolbar, we have formatting, charts, graphs, pivot tables, things that you'd expect in a spreadsheet. Below, we have the formula bar, where we have over 500 functions that can be used to create models and calculations. We have formulas like SUMIF and VLOOKUP, which are very popular, as well as many others. So it looks and feels a lot like a spreadsheet, but it's much more powerful in a few key ways. First, it's connected. As we'll see, we can embed data and bring in data from anywhere within Workday into our plan workbook to inform our plan. Second, it's collaborative. We have the ability to easily share these plans with other users in Workday, and the beauty is that they're already going to be users of Workday. There's no need to sign them up or get them a license to Workday Planning. They're already users. We can also collaborate right in the workbook in the context of the data. So there's no need to download it to a spreadsheet, email it to somebody, wait for feedback. All of that can happen right here within the plan workbook. Third, it is secure. We know exactly who has access to which workbook, so we don't have spreadsheets being emailed around the organization. When I used to work in financial planning and analysis, we'd handle sensitive salary information, and my worst nightmare was mistyping a name on an email and sending it to the wrong person. We have no fears like that within Workday because it's within a controlled environment. So the first tab for Angela is going to be some instructions on the expectations for the planning process. It even starts off with a link to a video in Workday Learning that explains how to fill out the plan, followed by some screenshots here. On the next tab, we have the headcount plan. This is a list of all of the filled and unfilled positions in Angela's org. All of the columns correspond to what we selected in the plan structure. Off to the right, we see the headcount and the base pay for each position. What Angela can now do is make adjustments to her plan. If there's a position she wants to eliminate, she can simply delete it. If she wants to add a new position, she can insert a new row and make the selections. She can more likely copy an existing row and make a few tweaks. Perhaps she wants to copy this row here, and we'll have to delete the employee and the position because it hasn't been opened yet. And perhaps we want to fill this role in San Juan. And maybe they're not starting in April, so I'm going to clear the data out to the right until April, and we'll leave it at that. So that's how easy it is to add a new position in the plan. And next, maybe I want to let the plan administrator, Logan McNeil, know that I made the change and why. To do that, I can click on the comment icon, type the @ symbol, and start typing Logan's name. I can also actually select a cell or range of cells so Logan knows where to look when she gets this comment. I can then type my message and send it off to Logan. We'll see in a minute what it looks like from Logan's perspective, but now we've entered our plan data. On the next tab, what we've done is embedded a list of open job recs into the plan workbook to help the user make decisions about their plan. Here you can see there are 6 open positions, but only 5 open job recs. So perhaps we might want to open a new job rec or eliminate one of the positions from our plan. Because this is live data, I can even click on the job rec to see more information about it. It's going to bring me right to the actual job rec object within Workday. This shows we're in one system for everything. I could even, with the correct security, copy the job rec and take action to open a new one, all in the same place where we're planning. On the next tab in the plan workbook, we have a summary of the data that's been entered into the plan. Here we can visualize to see the new positions coming in, as well as the new open position in San Juan here. Here we can provide some context to the plan and to the planner. It could be comparisons to actuals or their prior plan, really whatever you choose to provide to your end users to give them context to inform the plan. So Angela is now done with her plan. She can go back to her inbox and submit the plan. This will lock her out, and her manager will be able to see that she has submitted her plan. So let's go ahead and do that. So with that, from an end user perspective, they get their inbox item, they open their planned workbook, it's pre-populated with data, live data from Workday, they make their edits and submit it. Very easy, very user-friendly, and like I like to say, we take the friction out of planning. Make it really easy for the end user. So let's jump back in as the plan administrator, Logan, to see the other side of the collaboration, as well as how Logan can orchestrate the planning process. So when Angela created the comment in the plan workbook, because she tagged Logan, Logan will receive a notification. In that notification, we see a preview of the comment, as well as a link to the plan workbook. I don't have to go hunting for it. It brings me right to where I need to be. And now I can open up the comment, click on the link, and it'll bring me right into the region that Angela was talking about that she highlighted in the comment. This is super easy and powerful, especially when you think about distributed organizations with people all over the country or the world. Typically, collaboration on data, plan data is hard, and we make it easy with Workday Planning. Next, I want to show how Logan can orchestrate, track, and monitor the process. To do that, we'll navigate to her inbox. And when Logan kicked off the planning process as the plan administrator, she received an inbox item that allows her to track the progress of the process. Here we can see how many people have submitted their plans, how many we're still waiting on. I can click and see the details for each to see the planners who have submitted and who haven't. From here, I can cancel the planning process. I can finalize it, meaning pencils down, no more inputs, or I can view the process from a hierarchy perspective. When I do that, on the left-hand side of the screen, I see a hierarchical representation of all of my supervisory orgs. As I click on the left-hand side of the screen, the right updates to show me more info. If I click on sales, I'll see the details of all of the sales organizations and their plans. Here I can see that Angela has submitted her plan. I can open up her workbook, or I can send it back to her. So not only is it really easy to get end users involved in the planning process using our business process framework, we make it really easy for plan administrators to orchestrate and monitor the plan. The process that used to happen offline in Excel and email is now brought into one secure and efficient application, Workday Planning. The final issue I'd like to talk about today is the gap between plan and action. Too often, because it takes too long to complete a planning process, organizations are reporting off and making decisions based on stale data, whether it's actuals or plan. Because with Workday Planning, we're planning in the same system where we're transacting, we greatly reduce the planning cycle and allow reporting against detailed actual data, thus greatly reducing time to action based on that workforce data. So let's take a look at what's possible in Workday now that our plan is complete. To do that, I'll navigate to Logan's planning dashboard. And Logan now has immediate access to the roll-up of the current plan data, and she can use it to measure the performance of the organization. So we have a few examples here, and the first we see on the dashboard is a report we call the Headcount Tracker. This is a delivered report that we've renamed and made a few adjustments to. And it's a report that we found our customers really love because it gives them transparency into their workforce changes right alongside their plan data so they can make better decisions on hiring. What we see here is a walk forward from the headcount at the beginning of the year to all of today with all of the hires, terms, and transfers that have happened. We then see the current period plan versus actual with a variance. Using this report, folks in HR and finance and the business can clearly see and understand performance versus plan and have the ability to drill into all of the details. For instance, if I wanted to drill into the detailed variance here, I can see where this variance is coming from, maybe by job profile or any other dimension planned for within Workday. If I want to see the details on the actuals with a click, I can see those very easily because the transactions happened in Workday, same place where I completed my plan. No more waiting for headcount numbers to be loaded to a BI or a planning system for variance analysis. I can do it immediately with all of the detail right here within Workday. Lastly, let's take a look at the headcount plan variance. Scenario modeling and scenario variance reporting are typically very important to an organization. It allows them to judge the impact of various potential paths forward. In this report, we're comparing our baseline at the beginning of the planning process to where we are now. But that could be comparison against any other scenario that you might want to run. This allows us to see all of the ins and outs of the planning process and focus in on specific areas that changed. Again, with the ability to drill into more detail on any of this data. So to wrap things up, I just want to drive home the differentiators that we've seen today in Workday Planning. First is one system for transactions, analytics, and planning. No other vendor is going to give you this and all of the value and efficiencies it enables. Next is the collaborative and familiar spreadsheet user experience. Other planning solutions aren't easy for end users, but Workday Planning is. Other planning solutions are typically a black box and force you to learn proprietary scripting language to build models. We allow you to use the knowledge that you already have within spreadsheets. Third is built-in process control and audit. This is something that other vendors haven't focused on and don't do very well. And fortunately, we have the luxury of using the business process framework that has been in place in Workday from the beginning of our company, which is very, very powerful. Finally, we're building planning on a modern cloud technology foundation that's proven at scale. This allows us to focus on the application and adding value to our customers instead of building a brand new technology stack solely for planning. We're innovating quickly and we have come a long way in a short period of time, and we are all excited about the future of Workday Planning. With that, I'd like to thank you for your time, and I hope you found this demo useful. Thanks.